Hello, Miss. My name is Abigail Escobar Martinez, and today I'm going to talk about the linguistics. Okay, the first point is the definition. The linguistic is a scientific study of the languages. So the second point is the subject matter of linguistic. Okay, that is a branch of science. The linguistic tries to answer the following, and we have three basic questions. The number one say, what is language? The number two, how does language work? And number three, how is language acquired? So more common, we're going to know what about these three questions. The number three say the three canyons that linguistics observe when they study languages. Okay, we have three canyons. The first is the exhaustiveness, and in this part say that the linguistic should gather all the materials relevant to this investigation and give them an adequate explanation. The number two is consistency. There shall be no contradiction between different parts of the total statement. And the number three is economy, that the best statements are the shortest possible one which can account the most fully for all facts. The linguistic have two purposes. The number two is the linguistic study the nature of language in order to establish a theory of language and describes languages in the light of the theory established. Okay, the number two is that the linguistic examines all the forms of the language. That is in general, and seeks a scientific understanding of the ways in which it is organized to fulfill the needs it serves and the function it performs in human life. Now, we have the difference between linguistic and traditional linguistic grammar. That the traditional grammar has a the 20th century language description and pre-linguistic product of research was based upon early grammars of Latin or Greek and late emphasis on the correctness, the literary excellence, the use of Latin models, and the priority of writing language. It is therefore prescriptive in nature. Okay, we have the linguistic difference from traditional grammar in the following three ways. Okay, the first is described language. And the second is regard the spoken language instead of the writing as primary. And the number three is describes each other language or each language on its own merits instead of imposing Latin models. This is the descriptive in nature. Now we have the scope of linguistic. Okay, the classification of linguistic study, okay, is the microlinguistic, and microlinguistic. Okay, the microlinguistic have phonetic, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantic, and pragmatics. That we have the microlinguistic that is including the sociolinguistic, psycholinguistic, neurolinguistic, stylist, discourses analysis, computationally linguistic, and the others. Okay. Then we have the branch of linguistic that studies. So we have something definition or something points about the branch of linguistic. The number one, we have the phonetics, that the phonetic study of the speech sounds and how they are produced. Okay, the phonology is the branch of linguistic. In the branch of the linguistic, the phonology is the studies of how how speech sound and function in a language, and the ways sound are organized. The morphology is the study of the formation of the words. The syntax is the study of the structure of sentences and how words are combined to form phrases and sentences. The semantic is the studies the linguistics meaning. The pragmatics is the language in use. So we have then the study of languages and society. Okay, in this part we have three important points about our relations within the society. Okay, the first is the sociolinguistics. Okay, is the study of the language and the society. Then we have the psycholinguistic, that is the study of the language and mind. And the number three is the neurolinguistic. This is the study of the language processing and language representation in the brain. Now, we have the study of how literary effects can be. Then we have three points too. And the first is the stylistics. The stylistics is the study of how literary effects can be related to linguistics, theater's discourse. The analysis is the study of how sentences in spoken and written language form larger meaning, has paragraphs, conversation, and interviews. And finally, we have the computational linguistic. Okay, this is the approach to linguistic which employing mathematical techniques, often with help a computer. So now we have the mind according to which language, and we have two definitions. The first is the cognitive linguistic, that is the study of language and mind, and the second is the anthropological linguistic, and is the study of the relationship between the language and the culture. So we have two and applied linguistic, that is the study of language and linguistic. Is in relation to practical uses, speech therapy, language teaching, testing, and translation in a narrow sense. It means the application of linguistic theories to language teaching. In the next point, say the different meanings of the word language. Well, the language is expression or the way of speaking or writing. Then we have a particular variety of lively speech. That is a language per special purpose, is a colloquial language, and is the abstractum system. Now we have the last point in this presentation, that in the performance, and is the tool for human communication. This language is so complex a phenomenon. A satisfactory definition is difficult because many different definitions have been given by linguistics in the history of the linguistics. So the language is the institution whereby humans communicate and interact with each other by means of its arbitrarily used oral, auditory, arbitrary symbols. Okay, so now we continue. So from now I will consider language to be is a set of finite or infinite sentences. That Chomsky saying that the language are each finite in length and constructed out of finite set of elements. And Chomsky saying too that the language are the system of symbols. Okay, the next point is the most widely accepted definition. Okay, the language is the system of arbitrary vocal symbols used for human communication. So it's all. Now we have the interpretation of definition. So the language is a system about so the elements of language are combined according to the rules, but the language were not constructed according to the certain rules. It could not be learned and used consistently. Now we have the second language is arbitrary. There is no direct connection between the linguistic form and the thing it refers to. The language is abstract and it is realized in two forms, speech and writing. The speech has a history of about 100,000 years, while writing has only history of several thousand. Then there are still some communities that have speech without writing system, and then the speech is learned before writing. Now we have the human communication is done by speech, that the written language can to a large extent be converted into speech without loss, but the converse is not true. The language is used for human communication, and language is human specific. The language is the only possession by human beings, and it's make it possible for its user to talk to each other and fulfill their communicative needs. The next point is the language originate. So the first is the divine origin theory, the second is the invention theory, and the third is the evolution theory. Then we have this design feature of language, the features which are two, so to distinguish human language from animal cry system. One of these is the arbitrariness, is the connection between sounds and meanings. The duality is the property of the language, and the duality have two levels of structure. The one is the one of sound is the lower level, and the other is the meaning is the higher level. The productivity and creativity can utilize limited linguistic rules to produce or understand infinite meaning, full linguistic form. The displacement is referred to things which are present or not present, real or imagined, matter in the past, present or the future, or in far away places, here and now. The cultural transmission is the language system is based on generation and ordered by teaching and learning. In the function of language, we have the pathic function, directive function, expressive function, language, and performative function. In the linguistic, we have 2 points very important, that is the descriptive and prescriptive grammar. Descriptive refers to an approach which only describes the fact of language, and prescriptive refers to an approach which tries to lay down rules for correct language behavior. The synchronic and diachronic linguistic is the study of a language system at some particular point of time. The competences and performance, according to the Noam Chomsky, the linguistic competence refers to the unconscious knowledge about sound, meaning, and syntax which is imposed by the native speaker of a language. The syntagmatic and paradigmatic relation refers to the horizontal relation between linguistic elements in a sequence or between linguistic elements which are all present. In the linguistic performance refers to the actual use of language by individual in speech and writing, and Chomsky is saying that the distinction between competence and performance is similar to Sauer's distinction between language and Pharaoh, but they differ that Chomsky's distinction was made from the psychological perspective, while Sauer's distinction was made from the sociological perspective. And functionalist is the instrument of social interaction rather than a system that is viewed in and the formalist is the study of the abstracted forms of language and their international relations. So these were some of little definition about the linguistic. Thank you for your attention.